Hi, this is Kyle. I am doing my spiritual integration video blog assignment. I have read the Daniel 2020 textbook. Um, if you could tell, I'm kind of like, I was choking back laughter just because I can't picture how you mix that up with the book of Daniel. But the fact that it was said tells me that people do it. So I have read the Daniel 2020 textbook in its entirety. So, an ethical principle or standard from the Code of Ethics, 2014, from the ACA, that is in harmony with my personal and/or spiritual beliefs. Um, I think non-maleficence, which is, I'm pretty sure that's how I say it. That's a new word to me since I've started this program, and that's the first time I've said it out loud. Um, but I think I just didn't go deep enough, and so that's why I would say it was not in harmony prior to this course. Is for me, when I think about somebody that I can't, I feel like I can't in good faith counsel because um, they live a different lifestyle than the one I believe is correct. To me, like it makes sense to say, hey, I can't counsel you. I'm going to give you good references. I'm going to, this person, this person, this person. The AC Code of Ethics tells us at least a minimum of 3 referrals. Totally cool. And to me, like that sounds like a good idea. It's like, okay, I want somebody who can completely affirm you. Um, but then reading through Daniel, going through our textbooks, um, it can actually do a lot of harm. And when I kind of thought about it deeper, like it makes sense of um, I can't affirm you enough to just care for you. And that's really harmful. So while if you would have asked me 5, 6 weeks ago, hey, do you believe in the principle of non-maleficence? I'd say absolutely. Like I was a medic in the army. Do no harm is very standard across counseling, across uh, medicine, across being a human. Like, hey, as a medic, I don't stab people with shears in their thighs. Why? Because that's harmful and that's wrong, and they're probably going to punch me. So I always believed in the principle theoretically, um, but yet it still wasn't fully in harmony. So I think that's just something interesting to consider. Um, yeah, what challenges or conflicts did you face? I think a big part of that was um, just realizing how deep it goes, and um, it kind of goes to autonomy, which I'm going to get to in a second. But how God, just because God doesn't agree with certain choices that people make throughout Scripture, He still engages with them in their lives. He doesn't put them to the side. I mean, we see times of exile, but also I'm not God, and so I think that's another important thing to think if you're in a context where you're coming from a Christian background and you want to counsel. It's like you're not God, and so like Jesus called people vipers, but also Jesus like was involved in the whole creating the world thing, and I wasn't. So I'm probably not going to call people vipers because I don't trust myself to do that when it is appropriate. Uh, Identify one ethical principle or standard that currently remains in conflict. So I think the autonomy thing is still difficult for me, even beyond the spiritual aspect. That's something I struggle with. It's like, hey, here's the right answer. Like, I know it's the right answer. Um, but then letting people make the wrong one and being okay with that. Maybe okay is not the right word. Allowing them to do so, and not imposing my beliefs on them. I think on paper, um, I believe it. It's just I don't know how well I could actually practice it. Um, and so beliefs, I think it's not in conflict, but I think in behavior it probably would end up being in conflict. I think there's just something I need to grow a little bit. Um, I think with that, the action I'll take to work through that um, is just allowing those situations like to be unspoken, not to have the last word, not to mandate that somebody follows my belief, not necessarily in a formal counseling context, but also just in conversation with friends. Like they want to do something, it's like, okay, yeah. and then being there when they want to come back. In an article titled Counseling and Psychotherapy Research by Margaret Evans, 2003, it's a very biased article, almost to an extreme note. But she brings up, she did a survey with counselors who on the topic of homosexuality, and she examples one who believed that homosexual practice was wrong, and says, hey, like I'm strong in my beliefs, but also in my role as a bereavement counselor, I would respect their losses and respect their confidentiality and right to make their own choices. And so Evans brings up this kind of struggle of like, hey, if you believe this is true, but also you're going to support these people in their struggle, in their mourning, that's just a really hard spot to be in. I definitely, on paper, agree with autonomy, but it's also something I definitely need to grow in practice.